I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to Volusia Echo Advisory Committee meeting. Today is January 6, 2026. It's 9 a.m. Could I please have a roll call?
Reggie Santilli,
Here.
Trisha Drago,
Here.
Gerald Fieser,
Here.
Tom Laputka,
Here.
John Macaluso,
Here.
Pat Northey,
Here.
Jay Pendergast,
Here.
Doug Pettit,
Here.
Leah Washington.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Public participation, and I'd like to remind people who come to speak up, you have 3 minutes at the podium. Mr. Chester?
Good morning. My name's Keith Chester. Some of the things on the agenda today are very troubling, considering what we've already seen that's occurred with the Dutton House, the DeLand Museum, and other project failings. I think that we need to look to the Ponce de Leon Lighthouse from now on as an example and a shining star of how we should operate the ECHO program. The Ponce de Leon Lighthouse is owned by the city of Ponce Inlet, and it is managed and operated and was restored through a nonprofit association. And they've done a fantastic job on that property and have continued to do so since 1972. If you look to that project, you'll understand that one of the best things that can occur by ownership is that if that association failed, the taxpayers, who we should be calling the stakeholders, not those with their hand out, the taxpayer stakeholders can gain their property back. And I think from now on that any facilities that you're investing our dollars in should be owned by a government entity, even if they are going to be operated by a nonprofit. We need to start thinking more about the true stakeholders, being the taxpayers. We need to put brakes on this strategic plan. The idea of pushing money out to push money out and making it easier is ridiculous with all the failings that we have seen from this program. The 20-year grant requirement needs to be moved to a 30, 40 year again, the way it was originally. That's what the citizens were promised, was legacy projects. Legacy is not 20 years. And I should know that many of these projects that are coming back to you wouldn't have the clawback if we had the 20-year in place now. Transparency, transparency, transparency. The county's ECHO dashboard should also include all annual reports. All nonprofits should be required on their webpage, and they should be required to have a webpage on their webpage to have a transparency page that includes all board minutes and financials and the board members. Let's remember the Dutton House got to the point it literally only had one board member, and that was the president, and the Dutton House was sold to the board president's friends. She stood right here and said those were her friends. And the same board president was at the DeLand Museum, and the DeLand Museum was sold to the same friends.
Thank you, Mr. Chester.
So I've left you a handout. If y'all please read it over. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hope everyone's had the time to read the minutes from October 9th, 2025. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes? And do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, new business. Dan?
All right, Happy New Year, everyone. Daniel Marsh, Echo Manager. So today's agenda is pretty lengthy. We do have 2 action items that require a vote. Those will be B and E. The rest of the new business items are informational and discussion purposes only. We'll jump right into the first item here. This is the 2026 ECHO grant cycle update. So the calendar has been posted. We are moving to a spring grant cycle permanently, and this will give us time to implement the strategic plan, as well as give us time to finish the new grant management software. This was a response to our stakeholders, and this will also align with municipality budgets moving forward. The next cycle will start April 23rd, which will be our mandatory workshop. The rest of the calendar, our applications are due June 11th, and then our final applications will be due in July. And then we'll tour and do the grant review panel in August. And then they should go to county council around September or October for final approval. Any questions about where we're at with the news cycle? All right, so Nick's going to jump into our next item, which is the 2026 work plan and 25 annual report.
Good morning, Nick Dunn. I'm Resource Stewardship Director. As we kick off the new year, we just want to go back over with a reminder of the duties and the roles of the committee by providing you with the annual work plan and goals and a quick report of last year's accomplishments. So per council resolution and council authority, the work plan includes the duties of the committee to oversee review of applications, make recommendations on awarding of grants, and periodically review the criteria and procedures and guidelines of the ECHO program. So we have some specific goals here for the year that would include reviewing the 2026 ECHO grants and aid applications, providing direct feedback on DCE, direct county expenditure application projects, to review scope changes, timeline extensions, budget modifications, compliance issues, and provide recommendations to county council, and review updated 2026 ECHO grant guidebook and associated policy revisions approved by council, and to continue the implementation of recommendations that would be approved by council from the ECHO 2040 strategic plan. So with that, I'll roll into the 2025 annual report. The committee participated in the strategic planning session that took a few months throughout the year to complete. The ECHO program also awarded 4 projects for $1.3 million out of the ECHO program. And important note here, 16 projects were closed and completed, which brings us to a total of 234 complete ECHO projects out of 319 total projects. And with that, we would need a vote to approve this work plan to move forward. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
A second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Is there a discussion on the
Yes.
issue, on the motion?
Yes, there's
All right.
discussion.
Yeah, so before you go to a vote, I have a question for Nick. I bought my advisory booklet and you guys gave me when I became a board member here last year. Is this resolution in here? It is? Because I looked for it.
All the resolutions should be in that guide.
Now, the resolutions that I'm finding in here were the resolutions on the creation of, Resolution 2009-20, the resolution to create the ECHO funding, 2011-63, amending that, 2020-79, which is resolution, I don't know, whatever, it wasn't that one. And then the ballot resolution, and that's where the resolutions end. So I'm not finding it in here.
All right, resolution 2007-78.
Right. And so what I'm going to suggest is, because I've been asking about what my responsibilities as a board member are since I got here. And there's a section in the back here that sort of gives me a little bit of narrative on that, but it doesn't show this. So I'm going to suggest that you're diligent about the fact that Resolution 2007-78 is included in the booklet that you guys hand out to new members, because it wasn't. And it created questions for me that I couldn't answer. So,
Okay.
all right.
We'll make sure to add that moving forward.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so before we jump into the next item, C through F, I just wanted to review our monitoring and compliance process per the ECHO guidebook. So during the construction phase of the projects, ECHO staff will go out at a minimum twice per year to make sure that the construction is going smoothly. So we'll visit those projects twice per year during the 2-year, or if it's an exceptional grant, we'll go out and visit up to 6 times throughout the 3 years. Once the project is finished, depending on the restrictive covenant of 20, 30, or 40 years, we will go out and visit that project on a tri-annual basis. So what we do when we go out to each site is we look to make sure that there's public access, ADA access to the site. We also make sure that the site is still being used for an ECHO purpose, that it's meeting what was in the actual grant application, and if the facility is in clean working order, are they keeping up with their maintenance and operations? And we also check the ECHO sign to make sure that it's still in a prominent location and it looks good when we go out to that site. Once we're at the site, we will then do a monitoring worksheet, and we will send a letter of compliance if we do find that there is a finding or concern at the particular site. Then what we do is we will send that letter of compliance to the applicant grantee and ask for a plan of action or a timeline of compliance, if there is that. If there is no action, then we just simply send a letter, thank you for being, a good steward of the ECHO dollars, and we continue to work with you moving forward. All right, so jumping into, we'll start with Heritage Preservation Trust. This is the Hotchkiss Historic Home. This was a grant that was given in 2012. The awarded amount was $500,000. The revised grant amount is $485,509. This is a covenant of 40 years. So I want to take you through the timeline of the compliance as we've monitored this site. So dating back to August of 2020, we visited the site and determined that there was no public access. There were some maintenance deficiencies, as well as they did not submit an annual report that year. We issued a monitoring letter to the grantee, and then we also came out again in 2023, which was in our 3-year time window to visit, and the maintenance deficiencies had worsened there. There was also a violation of the grant agreement, as there was family residence being used at the caretaker house. We then asked for a plan of action, which was submitted to us in April of 24. They fixed some of the issues there, but they did not complete everything as required. We went back out in April of 25. There was still some maintenance deficiencies, as well as public access was denied to the second floor of the property. They submitted an action plan in June, and they basically told ECHO staff that they cannot maintain both properties. It's not something feasible that they can do, and they were going to place Hotchkiss House on the market for sale and pay off the grant for Hotchkiss, which is the $485,509. They wanted to use the proceeds from this sale to maintain their other grant, which is Lillian, which we'll touch on next. This went through our legal department, and we issued a notice of intent to enforce the restrictive covenant, and the county would pursue all legal remedies for this grant, and we are asking them to pay back $485,509, and they currently do have a pending sale on the property. Any questions about this one?
Does it cover that, the pending sale?
I saw what it was listed for, just under $1 million, but I can't answer exactly what the total sale amount is. We do have a member from Heritage Preservation Trust that is available to answer any questions pertaining to their grant.
Daniel, question for me. Two questions, actually. One is on specific to this, and one is the procedural question. Is the county's interest protected in this sale? In other words, as soon as the check is written from a buyer, does the county pull its 485 out or get it right away? I just want to make sure that the sale doesn't go off and the county's left, stumbling around looking for the buyer to try to get their money.
Sabrina Slack, Assistant County Attorney. The county records a restrictive covenant, and which is a lien for the full amount on it, so it's part of the record. The title company will pick that up, and if the title company doesn't pick it up, then we would go after, the buyer and the title company. But we are protected with the lien, with
Okay.
statutory lien.
Okay, all right. My second question is procedural to this issue. When you visited in 2020 and there were violations, I'm just puzzled on why that wouldn't trigger a more aggressive visitation schedule rather than waiting 3 more years to go back out. Like the health department, they don't go to your restaurant, find rat droppings and cockroaches and wait 2 years to come back. They give you a notice of compliance, and then you have to comply within a short amount of time, and they come back out and revisit. So I'm just concerned about the fact that we let this thing sit for 3 years, let it go into further decay, and then came back with, okay, now you got to do something.
This was during time of COVID. So that was probably one of the reasons why we didn't go back out and visit the project at that time. But we do also want to work with our partners. So when we go out and visit with them, we don't want to just drop the hammer on these grantees, and we try to work with them to come up with some sort of resolution to get the project back open for public access or to work through their compliance issues. So we have, spent a good amount of time working with Heritage Preservation Trust to get them back into compliance. We just have gotten to the point where it's no longer working for us.
Yeah, like I said, I understand wanting to work with your grantors, but at some point it just seems like it's our responsibility to protect the interest of the taxpayers in this thing, and that is, I'm not going to wait 3 years for you to, I want to wait a year for you to get in compliance. I'm going to go back out within a year and see if you've made suitable changes or are on the road to making those changes.
Yeah, I'd like to add, currently we are on a very strict monitoring schedule with follow-up timelines and revisits to make sure those timelines are met. We do approximately 100 visits a year on our sites for monitoring visits now, and we are on schedule for everything that is in requirement. So currently, I understand your concern for the years during COVID, but currently we are on schedule with everything we have.
I just think that if there are a violation, the requirements need to change. So I don't know where those requirements come from. Are they county oriented? Are they from the county council? Are they, created by your department? But I think if there's a violation, those requirements probably need to be adjusted. So, thank you.
I wanted to ask, so the owner of record for the Hotchkiss House is the Preservation Trust?
Heritage.
That's correct, Patricia. They are the
All right. And I wanted to know, as we have gone forward, and because the Lillian Place comes up next, have you looked at the books and the structure of the Heritage Trust to see if they are financially, I know you have to file 990s, et cetera. Do we know that as a grantee and recipient, they were not financially able to keep their part of the bargain, or perhaps the obligation exceeded what they had originally thought they were going to have to do at the Hotchkiss House? I want to know how financially sound, and has that been looked at for the Heritage Preservation Trust as we go forward. So they will sell this property for somewhere close to, I'm just going to say $900 to $1,000. The county will be made whole with a $485,000. The balance of those funds go into Heritage Preservation Trust. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so those proceeds go into Heritage Preservation Trust. And I know when an entity does its initial application, they submit their budget and their financials. I wanted to know if during the course of this, do we take a second look at their financials, and what have you found as far as their feasibility as an entity?
We have not taken a look at their financials. We did request their board minutes, and we did not receive those.
Okay.
It kind of goes along with that. So when they sell the property, I know that we are looking at getting the repayment on the grant once that sale is made whole. But in what order are things paid back? Because if the trust has a lot of debts and liens and all kinds of other things that are pending payment on top of the grant, which one gets paid first?
Oh, you really want a lawyer question? It depends. So liens are subject to a statutory priority. So there's also other conditions that may apply. So for instance, if there's an IRS lien, that's a super lien, they're going to go first. Then that's going to be followed by other liens that may or may not have super priority. Then liens go in time of recording. So our lien would be whenever, whatever time ours is in. So as part of the closing, as you may or may not know, title companies look at all the liens. They will do a closing statement, prioritize those liens, and determine who has, they have lawyers. We look at them also, so I'll look at it, and it'll go by priority. I have not looked at this one to see where we sit in the queue, but I don't recall seeing a lot of other liens on this property ahead of us.
Okay, that was my main concern, is in order to actually pay back the grant, where are we at in that totem pole of actually getting those funds back? And then my other question is, granted, taking into account 2020 and the leniency that we all experienced during that time, because we did see that there were additional issues in 2023, why did it take so long for us to get here? That's one of my bigger questions, is it still took 2 years for it to get to this point in front of us. So I'm in Doug's point, are there additional measures that we can take once we notice, like we noticed that the initial one, COVID aside, we noticed that there were initial issues in 2020, COVID hit, but in 2023 there were further issues, there were more deep issues, there was definite raising red flags. Why did it still take 2 years to get to this point where we're discussing it?
I mean, like I said before, we want to work with our grantees and applicants. So we felt we worked with them to try to get some of their tea parties back open, their public access. They did fix some of the compliance issues, but our staff goal is to work with these applicants and to keep these projects running through the 20, 30, 40-year restrictive covenant.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. I was going to point that out, that they did attempt to start making some of these repairs, but they just did not complete them. So on our follow-up visit, when we found out they were not fully complete, that triggered additional compliance issues in the timeline we're at today.
I'm just going to say, and Jay can jump in on this, when you have a house of the age of the Hotchkiss house or Lillian Place, it is no small matter to first bring it up to some kind of standard, to maintain and to operate. It takes a lot of money, and that's why I asked about the financial wherewithal of the Heritage Trust. And I remember the zeal with which that property was brought forward to the county council and all of that. I remember all of that, but it takes a lot of money to have a property like that.
Do we have a representative of the Heritage Trust?
Yeah.
You can ask some questions of them directly.
Good morning. My name is John Dillard, and I'm the current president of the Heritage Preservation Trust. A lot of information has been discussed, and some of it's accurate, some of it's not quite, a little bit misleading. And I didn't write everything down, so I would like to go back through if anybody has any questions for me on any of the issues. But the two that stand out is in 2020 was right in the middle of COVID. We were restricted for the number of people we could have in there. It reached a point where once we had staff in for our teas, we couldn't really even have enough people in there, or participants, that would cover the cost of having the teas. So we were greatly restricted during that period of time. Before then, with Hotchkiss, we had wedding venues, we had dinner parties, we had all kinds of fundraising events, and we're doing fairly well. And it seems like once COVID hit and everybody just kind of pulled back and quit going out in the public, we really suffered from it. Now, the two properties together, we got Lillian in 2009, and then in 2012, we got Hotchkiss. And between those two properties, I'd say up until earlier this year, we've spent well over $2 million of fund money that we've raised and grants that we've received for maintaining those properties. Mr. Drago, you're absolutely right. They are money pits, absolute money pits. And structurally, they're both in very good condition. We had to do some work on Lillian because of some damage that was done during the construction of the bridge when they were driving piles for the bridge construction. It did a little bit of damage to the foundation of it, but that's been stabilized. We've been through 3 hurricanes since then, and it seems to be fine. Most of the back on Hotchkiss in 2020, when they came out and did the inspection and said that we weren't in compliance, to my knowledge, we never received a letter from ECHO on that inspection. We never received anything formally from them on it. We did have a person that was a caretaker that was staying there. He did have a daughter, and yes, she was living in there. We didn't think that was a violation of the agreement because the agreement allows for that. And the agreement also allows for that at Lillian to have own property staff members that can stay there and help maintain the property. So as far as financially goes, it's tough. Sometimes we get pretty low in our account, but we have, like I said, we've had Lillian since 2009, and we've had Hotchkiss since 2012. And we've had some really good years, and we've had some years that we really struggled with. It reached a point where it was more volunteers come and go. We've had a little bit of an issue with volunteers in one of the properties just because of the amount of amount of homeless people and derelicts that are on property scare a lot of our volunteers away where they don't want to be there. We lost a fence on, I guess we're really talking about Hotchkiss, but Lillian is another issue, and I guess I have an opportunity to discuss that in the near future. Yes, sir.
Let me just to clarify.
Okay.
Lillian is the one right next to the bridge, right?
That's
And
correct.
Hotchkiss
Yes,
is
sir. It's the
inside
yellow
that.
one next to the bridge.
Okay. So just so you know, I've been there a couple times.
Okay.
And the first time was because somebody said it was a haunted house, and I wanted to go see it, and so my wife and I were there. And the second time was at Christmas this year. My wife and I wanted to do a 19th century house for pictures, and we couldn't find anything suitable. Went there thinking it was suitable. It wasn't lit up. I find no signage there. I don't see any signage. Maybe it's down. Maybe it's. But I would have had no idea it was Lillian House if I hadn't looked on the map and gone there like that. So there's concern for me that about the marketing and promotion that I didn't see any coming in off that side, coming in off Orange Avenue. That there, it's almost like going down an alley to get into the place.
It is.
So
it's a private alley, but there's a large sign right there on the corner.
Okay, well then
Silver
I
Beach
must have
and
missed
that
it. So I
place on it. I mean,
I've been there a couple times looking for it. So
Okay,
maybe
well, it's there.
I'll go back after this today
Okay.
and look for it for sure.
Yeah,
My
it's kind
second-
of catty corner at the driveway and on Silver Beach.
Okay.
And it's just kind of.
And then once you get into the property, there's really no signage that I've seen of any kind saying, hours or what we do or anything like that. So I'm just concerned. My other concern is this. Daniel just said that you guys were asked for an annual report and refused to provide it. Why is that?
No, we weren't asked for an annual report. We were asked for minutes from our last meeting, and that was an understanding when we were talked about putting Hotchkiss on the market for the sale of it, and we had a board meeting and discussed that. And my understanding was he wanted the minutes from that meeting for that particular issue. Why it was never sent to him, I'm not sure. I thought they had gone to him, but if he didn't receive it, maybe he didn't. I don't know. I can certainly check. There's nothing we're hiding because of it. We have board members. We've got several board members. We meet on a regular basis. and we still move forward with the projects. But we did meet to discuss what to do with Hotchkiss. And we decided, since Lillian is the older of the two homes and you've been in it, I mean, it's a jewel of a piece of property. It's the oldest house on Beachside in Daytona. It's a little rustic, but it's it's an Italianate Victorian home built in 1884, 1885. First house on Beach Street on Beachside in Daytona. And we just want to be able to maintain that and keep it open to the public.
How many board members do you have?
Members?
How many board members?
12.
I have a couple
Yes, ma'am.
questions. When is the anticipated closing on Hotchkiss House?
It was mid-February, I believe, is what we're shooting for.
Please go to the microphone if you're going to speak for the record. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I'm Fran Dillard, and I'm also a board member. The sale is pending, going through the county process to get permission to sell. So they have signed an extension through March 6th, but intend to close as soon as possible.
And the buyer's already gone through the due diligence process?
They have gone through part of it. I don't know if they've completed it.
Okay.
We did extend the due diligence period, too.
Yeah. Are there any other contingencies to the contract?
No, it's being sold as is.
Have you thought about getting a bridge loan to cover the amount to do the repairs at Lillian House in the meantime?
No, we haven't. We had actually anticipated on closing before the end of the year, and so getting on the agenda here is what held us up. So as far as we're concerned, the sooner the better, and hopefully it happens quickly.
Soon. Now, back to the issue about the pecking order that you're in as far as when the sale goes through. The only outstanding thing that is owed on Hotchkiss is for the most recent survey, which is about $4,000, and that's to be paid at closing. Smart Title is our title company, and they've worked with it. They've already got the opinion of title on it. There is nothing else outstanding on the property. So, and the sale price, and Daniel was correct. It's in the range that he discussed. So there's plenty of money to cover the payback for the county on the grant, and also to be able to make the needed cosmetic repairs on Lillian.
This might be a little bit of an ignorant question, but is the house being sold to maintain the historical status of the property?
Yes, and that was something else, and we probably could have gotten a little more money for it. I mean, it's about 1.35 acres on the river. It's a beautiful piece of property. And the house is a 5,700 square foot Victorian home built in 1905. And it's in very good shape structurally. It needs to be painted. And unfortunately, when they did the railing around there, they used regular metal fasteners. And so all the little brad nails and everything else are all rusting out. And it's just it needs to be totally redone on the railing. But the house itself is in good shape. And the people that are purchasing it, they've owned own other properties in the area, and their intent is to fully restore it and use it as a wedding event and possibly even do a bed and breakfast there. So their intent is to save the house. It won't be open to the public, but it will be saved. That's our understanding of it anyway.
Mr. Dillard,
Yes.
you mentioned the damage to the foundation. Was that the Lillian or the Hotchkiss?
That was Lillian.
Lillian, okay. We'll wait for Lillian.
Yeah, we hired a group, and it was a fairly expensive process, but they went through and brought up the foundation back up to its regular levels, and we have a series of structural supports underneath there that were installed, and it's a very stable house. We even had a structural engineer give us a letter of his opinion that it was structurally sound. In our last meeting we had in November, I believe Daniel requested a second opinion or another letter. We're not really sure exactly what it was for, but like I said, we've been through 3 hurricanes since the repairs were done, and the house is held up very well.
Are there any other questions, Pat?
Just another question. I know the people that are on the contract have the intent of operating as a bed and breakfast and/or event venue. But what as a land designation? There's not a restriction in the deed that you convey, or even if you did, there wouldn't be anything that ran with the land. So I wanted to know current zoning, and that to me, I'm just looking at
No,
this.
I know, and I was shocked.
This property may operate as a bed and breakfast for a venue for a couple of years while they go. I can just see this as prime real estate.
Well, the problem with it is, and we've talked about that, there's 2 or 3 issues. Number one, we'll talk about the zoning. The city of Daytona Beach did a blanket zoning in that area, area. We weren't even aware that the zoning had changed.
And it's zoned that you could build riverfront condos,
Yeah,
is it not?
40 units per acre, yes.
Right, yeah. That's what I thought.
And I was kind of surprised with that. But with a special permit or a special process, you can do what they want to do with it. You can still have events there. You can still do a bed and breakfast there.
But it is an exception to the underlying zoning.
That's correct. That's correct. And actually, Lillian's the same zoning.
Correct. I just can see, okay, that's.
And one thing we didn't want to do was sell both properties, because then you have a drive-through access that's narrow enough to where you really can't develop it. By the time you put a road down with the cul-de-sac on the end and everything else to make fire and everybody else happy with it, you lose all the property. So the only way to do it would be to make an L-shaped road that would come in off of Peninsula and exit off on Silver Beach. And the only way to be able to do that is to own both properties. And we don't want to give up Lillian for the exact one of those reasons, but that's one of the reasons we don't want to, because that blocks that access point and keeps it from being bulldozed and developed. Because our main goal and our love is Lillian, and that's what we're trying to save.
So from what I'm understanding is
Yes.
that there's not really technically anything in the sale that is preventing them, or anything with the county or the city that is preventing them from demolishing the property and building condos.
Well, talked to an official with Daytona Beach, Jim Morrison. He basically said that they would have a very, very hard time getting permission to take that building down. So there's no guarantees. Of course, there's no guarantees if you guys take it back. I mean, there's just no guarantees. It was built in 1905, so it's a 120-year-old house in Florida, frame construction. Been through, like I said, we've spent over $2 million on those 2 properties in the last 15 years. And we could spend another $2 million on it tomorrow.
Any other questions?
Just one
Yes,
question. I went over there yesterday just to refresh my memory and come in off of, what's the road going across the bridge?
Silver Beach.
Silver Beach Bridge, yeah. Well, and then you turn in there, and I did see the sign there, Doug, but it is tight. And then when I came out, I went out off of Peninsula, kind of cut through. Will that access continue, or will they be, when they get that? Because it seemed like it would be difficult coming in and out of Orange.
The east-west, the exit that you took out was part of the old Mobile Avenue right-of-way, which was vacated. And when they vacated it, for some reason, usually they split it down the middle and give each side property owners half. For some reason, it all went to Hotchkiss. So technically, that is Hotchkiss property for that east-west exit out on the peninsula.
So Lillian will have to go in and out off of
But
Orange.
it's a recorded ingress-egress easement, and everybody uses it, so I don't think they can stop you from using it.
Sabrina Slack, Assistant County Attorney. In 2019, the county reserved an easement for public access from Peninsula down Mobile Avenue for public access to the river. So that easement's going to remain through the sale. So the vacated Mobile Avenue still is an easement that'll be retained by the county that was given to us by Heritage Preservation Trust in 2019.
My understanding is that easement will go away once it's sold.
That would have to be something the title company would work out, but it does not have an end date. It just is an easement given to you by you to the county.
Yeah, no, it was basically wrestled from us by the county, but it was for public access to the river only. It was never
During the grant.
yeah during the period of the grant. So once that grant goes away, it was my understanding that all those will be vacated.
It'll be a title issue because there's no expiration on it as recorded.
Okay. But you all can vacate it if it's a title issue. Yeah.
It's not for me, so
Okay.
I'm just saying
All
that's what, as we sit here today, there's a recorded easement down Mobile Avenue for the benefit of the county.
There's a recorded easement across the whole front of Hotchkiss too, riverfront easement. They've got the whole property across the front, and that's got to go away. That can't maintain.
Now, the bulk of the easement that goes, the bulk of the easement that goes down to the river is on Lillian property, and obviously we wouldn't have a problem with that remaining. It's just the portion that's on Hotchkiss.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm just looking at the easement. It says to have and to hold forever. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's longer than 40 years.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Dillard? Any for Dan or Nick, for staff? Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Mr. Dillard?
No, just we've enjoyed it. We really appreciate y'all's support on this. Both properties are absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful piece of property. I think the properties themselves are worth what the taxpayers have in the grant itself. So even if the houses weren't there any longer, I still think they could claw back what they needed. So anyway, we've enjoyed working on both properties, and we hate to see Hotchkiss change hands, but it's just gotten to a point where it's more than we can handle on both properties. And we want to focus strictly on Lillian because we feel like that has more historical bearings. We've got Josie Rogers stuff and materials and her furniture and her diplomas and stuff, and we've got the first mayor of Daytona Beach, his furniture that he brought down from Kentucky furnishes one of the rooms at Lillian. So we've got a lot of historical stuff there that we really enjoy. So anyway, no more comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Dillard. We do have some public participation. Mr. Chester? Once again, 3 minutes.
We certainly need to learn from the past. We keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. It's like we're pounding our heads against the wall. Board minutes, by the way, came up with the Dutton House. They had no board minutes to even prove who the president was. Staff has to be sure we're getting the board minutes. And if we do, like I said, and make it a requirement that these organizations have a web page with a transparency page that includes board minutes, it'll solve that. If these people, and we should thank them for what they've done so far, if they're really passionate about these two homes, and the former board thought that they were important enough to invest in, we need the best thing they could do to preserve them now and way into the future is to give them to the county. Give them to the county. Basically give them back to the people, because the community, not just through our tax dollars, through ECHO, the community as a whole has invested in them. And if we think that they're important enough to save and to keep, they should give them to the county and then get a group together to figure out where to proceed, even if a nonprofit takes care of the maintenance and upkeep and everything from there on out, much like is done at the Lighthouse with the Lighthouse organizations. If y'all trust Daytona, you're a damn fool, because we've seen what Daytona does with development, and they'll bulldoze, allow anything to be bulldozed for more development. So let's not even consider that. The best thing could be done here is that these wonderful people who've maintained these properties, they relinquish ownership of both properties to the county's government, and then we can work with them and work with others and figure out what's the best course of action for the future. And like, again, just like the Lighthouse, If we think that these properties were important enough to have the taxpayers invest in the first place, where are we at? We're just going to give it up now. So I think that is the best course of action. We don't need to beat up on them. It's difficult to do these projects, but this needs to be a lesson for this board and this county into the future as you're giving money away. Remember the Dutton House. We have to look at history to learn. If we don't, we're damn fools. The Dutton ended up getting down to one board member. If these people continue to operate the Lillian House alone, what's going to happen when they pass away? What's going to happen to the properties later? Will somebody come behind them and allow it to dwindle down to one board member president who then sells to their friend investors? Please give the properties back over to the county, work with the county for the future so they can be preserved for a long term. If you really care and you're that passionate, that's what you should do.
Thank you, Mr. Chester. Mr. Dillard?
I just have one comment on that. We tried to give both properties back to the county. We were told you all weren't in the property business and you didn't want them back. So we're working the best we can with what we've got to keep these maintained. So anyway, would love to have a city or a county sponsor us, help us with the projects. It'd be wonderful, but we don't, so we're where we are.
Thank you. Okay, so the issue here is, are we going to rescind the grant and get reimbursement from the Heritage Preservation Trust? Yes, Nick, did you want to say something?
Yes, this is not an item that requires a motion. This is just for review.
Okay.
So just a quick overview. We are bringing these three items today as compliance issues before the committee for review. Is completely procedural at this point. No action needs to be taken. These will be presented to county council for action.
And it is not required that we bring them to ECHO. So when we talk about transparency, Mr. Chester, here you are.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll jump into Lillian Place now. Lillian was awarded in 2009. This was an emergency grant for acquisition due to it was going to be demolition by neglect. This actually started our emergency grant program, which was approved by council in July of 2009. This also, same visit date, we went out August of 2020. We issued the letter 9/11/20 for both properties as we were there on the same day. Once again, no public access. They did not notify staff that there was no public access at that time. Came back out in 22, and there was actually no finding or concerns at that time for Lillian Place, right? Then we came back out in April at the same time we visited Hotchkiss, and there had started to be some maintenance deficiencies with this property as well. Sent out the letter. They also submitted an action plan in June of 22. Some of the action plans were that they were going to complete a lot of the repairs between a 2-year time span, which was not something that, we could work with. They also advised that both properties were not feasible to maintain, and they wanted to use the proceeds from Hotchkiss to maintain Lillian. So when they submitted their action plan in June, I went back out in November to see if they had done any of the things from their action plan, and there was no action steps that were taken from the June 22nd visit, which led us, no repairs or maintenance had started. The deadlines had passed. They had asked for a new deadline during the visit. Once again, no public access to the first or second floor. While we were there, they also made us aware that they had discontinued daily tours as of summer of 25, which is also, a public access violation of their agreement. We did not know that. They told us that. We had then brought this to legal. Legal made the determination as well to enforce the restrictive covenant on this grant and asked for full payback of this grant, which is $425,100.
In the request to have the remittance of $425,100, have you verified that those assets are available?
Sabrina Slack, Assistant County Attorney. The restrictive covenants are, or the 425,000 will be secured by the lien that's enforced through the restrictive covenants. So the property is the asset that the county would be able to recover that from.
So then, so I want to know, so the steps would be that we would record the lien, okay? Would we then be in the process of forcing a sale?
A lien can only be enforced through a court order. So yes, it would have to be a court action to enforce a statutory lien against the asset, which is the property.
So I guess what I'm asking is, when this goes forward, what is then the success, the logical consequences, subsequent actions that they will take and we will take? I want to know, okay, we've done Hotchkiss House. Okay, that's done. Now we go forward with Lillian Place, and we are requiring a repayment of $425,000. We have not determined that they have that money currently in the bank to pay it back, so that there will be a recorded covenant on the property.
So the recorded covenant goes back to when the monies were first given to them to purchase the property.
Okay.
So our lien dates back to, I forgot the date. So it dates back 10 years.
Okay.
So what happens is when you have a lien, you have your security interest is the real property.
Right.
So you do not have a right to go after anything except the real property through that lien. So just in general, legally.
I understand. I was in real estate. I understand
right.
that. So then are we forcing them to sell this property? Will the county then execute its right through the lien?
If staff is directed to go forward with enforcement of the lien by the county council, that would be the only method with which we could, as you say, force. I prefer recover.
Okay, to recover the asset, the only way forward would be, in fact,
is voluntary repayment or enforcement of the statutory lien. Enforcement of a statutory lien requires filing of a legal action and then going through the entire legal action, getting a judgment for a sale, and having a public auction to then recover those monies. And all the things that go with that, which you really don't want to.
So as I sit here, I am thinking to myself, a year from now, we will find ourselves with Hotchkiss House, with a private owner, trying to figure out how to make a cash flow, and we will find Lillian Place in a position of possibly, I won't call it a foreclosure sale, but a sale in order to repay this amount. And I just not sure. I have a caution there about the two steps going hand in hand. And I know, and I've had the conversation with Daniel, that you can't take the proceeds from Hotchkiss House and repay for Lillian Place. However, if this remedy had 6 months, perhaps there could do a bridge loan. There could be other ways to not have the sale come as a natural consequence, have the sale of Lillian Place. I'm just asking us to think about how that flows. And I know we're not the decider. I understand that. Okay.
Leah?
So that's kind of going along with what my thought process is, because there's nothing to preserve these properties legally. There's nothing that preserves the historical consequence of these properties. So at the end of the day, the seller could say, the buyer can say all the most lovely things in the world on their intents, but there's nothing preventing this entire property, Lillian and just both of them, Hotchkiss and Lillian, ending up being a bunch of beachfront condos. So that's where my biggest, most immediate issue is how there's nothing in here protecting the historical consequence of either one of these properties.
Doug?
I think we need to understand that we're not the arbiters of what does with that property. That we're just the arbiters of making sure that the taxpayers' funds are protected. So what happens with those properties? I love historic stuff, so I'm hoping for you. I'm pulling for you. But let me also ask this: as Forrest said, I'm not a smart man. So if you sell the Mather house, whatever that other house was, if you sell that one and you pay back the Echo loan, you're left with a net of maybe $500,000, right? If you sell it for $900,000, you pay the $400,000 back. You're left with proceeds of $500,000 that go over to the Preservation Trust because they sold the property. Are we not able to secure this amount from that once it reaches the bank with them?
We are only allowed to do what is provided under the restrictive covenants, which is a lien. So we are only allowed to go through the lien enforcement process. There is nothing in the restrictive covenants that would allow us to go after their cash funds.
Okay. And real quick, Nick, let me ask you this. You said this was
only
not
voluntary.
a votable item, but is this going to be a votable item at the county council? Do I need to be able to ensure that my county council member knows what we discussed today?
Yes, this is an item that would be approved by council.
Okay.
Just as a reminder, where we're at a enforcement action for compliance issues. We're not really getting into what operationally they do with the property. The step we're at today is just an enforcement action that we're moving forward to county council for a decision.
Doug, I can, if I may add, that they could voluntarily repay us for Lillian, and it would satisfy.
Any other questions?
I do. I get it with the Mathis house. Lillian, I really don't want to see that go away. I'm kind of troubled where we're going to go with that. Is it a time factor, a money factor? Is there a solution we can come up with that we can all live with to make this thing be successful?
Mr. Dillard?
John Dillard, Heritage Preservation Trust. That's what we're here today. You're right. The two properties, at one time, Hotchkiss was one of many Victorian houses, looked very similar, but all along that ridge. And one by one, they were taken down. When they did the Black Pearl property, they took a lot of houses down. We actually have in Lillian, in the master bedroom, we have a half-tester bed that came from one of those Victorian homes. It was donated by a friend of mine, a contractor in town. And so the furnishings that we've gotten to be able to accumulate in Lillian are very to the period. And it's a beautiful property. It really is. And it's got a rustic feel to it that just, I don't know, you just fall in love with it when you spend as much time as you want with it. So our intent is to do whatever we can to save that property. Now, we can pay the county back for the amount of the grant and have it owned privately, but then that closes it for any public access. And what we really want to do, and right now what we're doing for money for the operation of it is between the paranormal investigations we have there and the T's, we make enough money to handle the monthly operational costs, but really don't accumulate a whole lot of money for larger things. And that's why we wanted to, if we had the funding from the sale from Hotchkiss, then with state grants, usually you can get a grant for improvements, but you have to spend the entire amount up front and then get reimbursed for it. That's a burden for us. If we're getting a $100,000 grant, we've got to come up with $100,000 to spend before we can get any of it back from the state. So that has hampered us at times on doing stuff like that. We still have done some. Race and Rec has been very generous to us, and they've worked with us. So, but our intent on Lillian is to save it at all costs. Whether we'd prefer to have it open for the public, get it back to a position where we can have it open for the public. We want to put a fence around it and protect it and the people that are there from the homeless migration all over the property that we currently have, and get it back open to the public. That's our intent. But even if that doesn't, if we can't work out something with Echo and move forward in that direction, then we have no choice but just to buy it outright, and then it would go into private hands, and then, at that point, we'd have to come up with some other means of being able to maintain it. But we have no intention of tearing it down, and that was one of the main reasons we wanted to sell Hotchkiss off separately and not because at one time we talked about putting the two together. And actually, the people that are interested or that have a contract on Hotchkiss are interested in this property too. But our concern was, like you said, if they run into a problem with Hotchkiss, now they've got a full access through their riverfront, and boom, you've got a full-blown development in there, and both properties are lost. So, and we don't want that to happen.
I just want to say that I understand that a covenant does not, in fact, enforce the sale, okay? But I would suggest that you may look at timing for effectiveness so that you would go forward with recording a covenant subsequent to whatever date the sale for Hotchkiss is, so you could allow this to go forward and stay intact. That's a matter of timing, but the interests of the public would still be protected. That's just a thought that I have. That's not an action.
Right.
Northern-
Preferably, I would like to have both properties open to the public. It's just not economically feasible. And if these people that are purchasing Hotchkiss do as they've intended they're going to do, at least the property can be maintained and you can still have access to it. You may have to rent a room for the night, but you can still have access to it. But Lillian, we'd like to keep open to the public. We get so many people that come in and look and say, I have no idea this was here. This is such a cool place. This is such a beautiful house. And it makes us feel good because we have put everything else in our lives pretty much on hold for it seems like the last 15 years to be able to maintain these properties. And hate to say it, but I think Lillian's probably in better shape than my homestead. but those kinds of sacrifices you make. So anyway, we're dedicated to it, and we'll do whatever we need to make sure it stays open and in as good a condition as we can keep it in.
Penworthy?
Just no question, just a comment. I was on council when we adopted the emergency historic acquisition program for ECHO, and this was Councilmember Wagner. This was his passion about getting this done and bringing this into the fact, not public trust, but to make it as a not-for-profit that was successful. I guess I do have a question. What have you all done as a board to do some outreach on sponsorships of maintenance or anything like that? Have you talked to council member? Well, he's not council member now, but have you talked to Josh? Does he know that this is, because he was passionate about this project.
Yes. No, we have, and we've outreached to a lot of people. Home Depot has been one of our biggest supporters. Okay. They've been wonderful. And they provided all kinds of materials and grant stuff for us and things. So no, what really put us in a little bit of a tailspin was the setback we had with COVID.
COVID did that.
That really hurt us.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to claw out ever since.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's why we reached the decision that if we had to save one of them, it was going to be Lillian.
Well, that was the first one that we did as a historic
we had a lot of support at first, and people just kind of evaporated.
It's a beautiful place. I've been there. It's absolutely beautiful, and I want you to be successful.
And it's got some cosmetic stuff on it, but it's still structurally in great shape, and it's funny because Lawrence Thompson built the house, and his younger brother, who was in his late teens, came down from up north and decided he was going to move to Daytona Beach. Had no experience really with any carpentry work at all. He did all the carvings on all the staircases and everything else in that house. And I guess as he was learning, he did it. But it's very warm. It's just an incredible feeling, and it's got a lot of character.
Has the city of Daytona Beach done anything to help you all?
They've not done anything against us, but and they have helped with the police force and helping keep homeless off the properties and stuff. So yeah, they do. They do come in and pick up the garbage.
How many historic homes are left on the peninsula?
Oh boy!
Do we know?
Well, we've got the one catty corner that was in
quality.
pretty bad shape. Yeah, but it's back up. Actually, the law office on the corner of Peninsula and Silver Beach, that was one of Thompson's houses that he built. I think that was his house after he sold Lillian to his daughter. I didn't know Lillian actually had to pay for it, but she had to buy it from her father. But he built that house there. It's been stuccoed and it's outside of it's been changed since then. But they owned a series of homes, and they owned property all the way out to the beach at one time.
The whole Silver Beach, you can just, I mean, I was on the historic board, and there was a survey done, historic structures in the city of Daytona Beach, and Daytona Beach has the most varied architectural, historic.
It's incredible what's there.
In Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was active in DeBerry Hall when the county acquired DeBerry Hall, and have watched that become a very successful historic project, and it is open to the public, and they do teas and they do all kinds of events there, but they do have the county back behind them. So I just wish you the best of luck on this one, because I know that when we had it before us as county council, that our intention then was to see it be successful, to see it represent the history of Daytona Beach, and I share Councilmember Wagner's passion about this. So,
No, he was very supportive at the very beginning. I got involved because Nancy Long was one of the founders of it, and she was on the council. I was community development director at South Daytona at the time, and of course, she was on our council, and she said, "John, I got this really neat little project. You need to get involved with it." And I've been there ever since. And she has now since kind of pulled back on it, but yeah, Fran and I have been there pretty much the whole duration of that. So we've had our supports come and gone, and we've got to get younger people on the board. We've got to, and what's nice is the Smart Title, the title company that's handling this, where actually she's my daughter-in-law, but she has got a younger group of people we've had some events there with them, very interested in the property. We're trying to get it reestablished where we can get more of those people on our board and get a little bit younger blood there, because a comment was made earlier about my age and everybody else's, and we're not going to be around forever. So,
right.
And I would love to see this property be around forever.
Can I ask one question
Yes.
of staff? I think I heard it said that we were not in the acquisition business. Was that a council decision that made that? Did they say that publicly, that we're not in the acquisition business?
Mr. Dillard, was that recently that you offered to give it to the county, or several years ago?
We talked to Daniel about it at one time. I mean, we were just looking for different options. Actually, what's funny is when we first got Lillian, the board basically, there was some naysayers on the board at that time, and they said, this will never stand. You won't get 5 years out of this thing before you're having to sell it or get out of it. So we've made a pretty good run with it.
You've been a good run. You have.
But it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
I think, of course, it would be a policy decision for council, but given the austerity environment that we're operating in at this moment, I don't believe it would be feasible.
Yeah, the other concern we had was that it was...
I got you. I understand that, but I'm going to ask anyway, because I think it's something that the council should weigh in on.
Yep.
City of Daytona was concerned about all the parks in that area that are maintained by the county, and they didn't particularly want another one.
Any other questions, comments? Pat? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one.
All right, next one is an actionable item. It involves Halifax Humane Society. This was a 2014 grant for $400,000. Also has a restrictive covenant of 40 years. This grant has two components to it. We have the pet services building, and we also have the public dog park. So when Mr. Hawkins took over as CEO, he actually reached out to me, and we talked about where they were at in the process with Echo. They wanted to convert the pet services building to a crisis shelter for domestic violence, homelessness families, right? We actually denied that request. They initially turned the pet services building before he was CEO into a wellness center. which was a compliance issue that they made us aware of. So they are now asking to convert the pet services building, into that, but we need to do a scope change first to relieve them of the pet services building, and they would still maintain the dog park moving forward. We'll get into the reimbursement portion in the next slide, but we actually need to do a scope change for this grant first in order for them to proceed to the next steps.
So we're changing the use of the pet service building.
Correct. So there was two components to the grant. They had the pet services building
Is this for dogs?
and the dog park. Yeah, so the
'Cause I thought I understood what was happening here, but I don't get this at all.
so domestic violence, the dog survivors,
Okay,
not the
okay.
yes, the dog survivors or cats or what other animals that they wanted to take in. So
I know. What the heck?
I should have specified that in the PowerPoint. But it was denied due to not meeting an ECHO purpose, right? Did not meet one of the 4 categories of ECHO. It wouldn't have public access, and it violated their covenant and grant agreement at the time. So that's why it was denied. So their request now is to be relieved of their ECHO obligations for that building, but they will keep the dog park operational. They will maintain it and keep it fully accessible to the public moving forward.
One action item, which is the scope change on the pet services building, and the other, the dog park, and then just stands as it is.
Correct, and it'll still follow the same 40-year restrictive covenant.
I actually have a question. So do we have a precedent already for scope changes, or would this actually set a precedent for scope changes?
No, it's in our guidebook that we have scope change policy and procedures. So this does follow it. However, we were not aware that they converted the building originally to a wellness center until Mr. Hawkins came on board. He notified me and said, hey, we converted the building. And I said, you couldn't do that. You needed to go through the advisory committee into council for a scope change. So we've worked with them, right? And this is where we're at. So now this is this is what they want to do with the building. And then we'll get to the action, the compliance issue next, because they're willing to pay us back the amount for that pet services building. But we have to do the scope change first.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Pat.
Okay, so I want to fully understand this. They stopped taking dogs in, correct? They're not taking dogs in at all for adoption. They're no longer an adoption facility. Is that correct?
That would be a question for the applicant if you'd like, Pat.
Okay.
Hawkins is here to answer any questions.
Okay, well, could we hear from him?
Yeah, of course.
Can you explain exactly what you're doing? Y'all used to take dogs in, or they were surrendered, and then you would adopt them out. You're no longer doing that?
That is not correct. Hi, I'm Sean Hawkins. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Halifax Humane Society.
Okay.
I've been in the role for the last 20 months, so I'm
Yeah, I know you're new.
new to the position, and certainly the compliance issues with this grant were part of my predecessor's history with the organization. Halifax Humane Society has been an animal shelter for the last 90 years. We continue to be an animal shelter. We continue to accept owner surrender animals from the general public. We continue to maintain housing for stray animals for 5 different municipalities within the county. Volusia County chose not to continue sheltering its stray animals with our organization. But our shelter is filled with adoptable dogs and cats today. I assure you we remain a public animal shelter.
So if you remain a public animal shelter, how are you integrating this new service into that?
So the Color building, which is a standalone building on our property, was originally built for a for-profit boarding and grooming operation.
So that's the building.
That we're talking about. The building had not been used for some time when I arrived at the organization. It was a relatively new, relatively well-maintained, small kennel building that was not being used. We were continually being approached by the Domestic Abuse Council to help them with temporary placement of animal victims of domestic violence. And we had integrated those pets into the shelter as we had space. That is less than ideal. We typically want to keep domestic violence victims separate for a lot of reasons. We don't want to expose those owned pets to.
But the human victims.
These are animal victims.
These are animal
we are only
victims
talking about animal victims.
You're not doing anything
We don't
with
have
human
anything to do with the human victims, correct. So the service that we're proposing that is needed, there is actually not housing available for animal victims of domestic violence from Brevard, Flagler, or Volusia counties. So the entire contingent 3 Beach County communities have no services for animal victims. And as a matter of context, 70% of human victims of domestic violence report that they have animals in their household. And once those human victims are able to flee, 50% of those people have reported that the abuser has either killed or threatened to kill or injure the animal, forcing the families to stay in the abusive environment. So it is a desperately needed service in the community.
I don't disagree with that at all.
We had an empty space, and when we were approached by the Domestic Abuse Council to provide housing, we thought it was a brilliant.
But you're not housing the person and the dog together.
No.
Okay.
Humans go to DAC. Humans go to Domestic Abuse Council.
They take care of them, and
the dogs and cats and other animals come to us in our care with our veterinary team and our animal care team.
And how long do they stay in your care?
Initially, we have the agreement that we have with the Domestic Abuse Council is as long as the family is in their system and being managed by a caseworker,
okay,
we will continue to provide housing. We provide an initial 30 days, no questions asked. The families can come and visit. They can visit their dog. They can groom their cat. Our medical team is on top of the day-to-day care of the animals. When we're approaching that 30-day mark, we check in with Domestic Abuse Council to make sure that the family is still on track. They're trying to find housing, employment, and of course our goal is to reunify.
Reunite them. Okay.
And all of the animals that have come through the program so far have been reunified with their families.
Thank you. That was excellent.
It is confusing, so I'm glad you asked the questions. Thank you.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, part of this need is that because of the shelters not having space to take both the families and the animals simultaneously, or is it a
Correct.
separate issue? Okay, so that is the primary.
And I'll point out there's also issues. The county is probably most familiar in disaster response efforts. There are a whole series of issues that then are on the table when you try and co-locate human victims of a disaster or domestic abuse situation along with animal victims. Health code, veterinary care, all kinds of stuff comes into play. So when we were able to separate, we do the thing that we're really good at, and that's taking care of the dogs and cats. And the Domestic Abuse Council can do the thing that they're really good at, which is providing emergency housing for human families who are needing assistance.
Okay, so yeah, I just want to make sure that that was on top of mind as well, because that is a definite need. And knowing that domestic violence victims do typically have animals, and the housing situations when it comes to even homeless, you don't really have access to shelters that have animal capacity sometimes. And then you put in the domestic violence issues on top of it, like what you mentioned. I definitely see the need, and I respect the efforts, but I do understand where we came from with not being able to approve it.
And I just wanted, so then it's the domestic violence aspect that restricts public access, because in any domestic violent housing, you do not have public access. So am I understanding? Because public access was one of the big issues here.
So that is why the color building, that's
Right.
the name of the building, is a perfect setup for this. It is actually a separate building on our campus, it's entirely fenced. It doesn't, I mean, we have had the doors open because when it was originally the boarding and grooming center, it was available to the public. But it is completely segregated and can be restricted from any access.
I just want to make sure I understood that was the reason for it. Thank you.
That's why we don't want them in the animals in the shelter environment, because that is public access.
Any other questions for Mr. Hawkins?
Let me ask a couple of questions.
Sir.
When was the last time this facility was inspected that it was in compliance? Do you have a record on that at all?
Daniel might, I do not.
Well, I'm wondering if the ECHO staff has a record on that. Because I'm just troubled. I'm very troubled by the fact that you had to let ECHO know that you were not in compliance. I'm wondering when the last time was that we saw that it was in compliance.
So we went out 2 months prior in 2023, and there was no compliance findings, no issues.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
We weren't supposed to visit for another
3 years.
3 years,
Right,
right?
right.
A couple months after, we weren't aware. When he took over,
Right.
he made a phone call, reached out, said, hey, I wanted the grant, wanted the restrictive covenant. I wanted to learn a little bit more about ECHO and build the relationship.
Right.
So we started communication, and he was very transparent, and he made me aware.
Yeah, I admire the fact
made
that
me
you're
aware of that.
yeah,
So then
you
we
let us know.
met
Yeah.
up. I went out to the facility. We toured it, and we tried working together. And this is where we're at today.
So it's a requirement, Doug, that they notify us if there's changes to their scope, because we only go out every 3 years. So if they have a change to their scope, they're required to notify us.
And the previous CEO did not do that.
That is correct.
Apparently.
We had a series of a 2-year period with 4 CEOs. It was a pretty chaos.
I follow the papers. I know.
Okay, so that is not the case now.
Yeah.
And I'm not going anywhere. So we are investing in programs that serve the community, and this is a need in the community.
Daniel, let me ask you this. What happens, what is the course of action if the scope change fails? If it's not voted affirmatively?
Council will make that decision January 20th.
Okay.
That's when it goes. All of these items go January 20th.
Okay. But now, don't we have some, are we not, you said it was an action item for us
You
today.
guys have to make the action to approve the scope change first, then we would take
Right, so
this
if
item.
that fails, what then is the scope, is the course of action?
Whatever your recommendation would be would still go to county council. So if you vote to not approve the scope change, the council would consider that and do whatever the council deemed appropriate.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes.
Okay. It's Sean. You have worked out this arrangement with the county staff, is that correct? You're comfortable with what has come before us?
Yes, ma'am. I made Daniel and I working together made the recommendation.
Okay.
Yes, and inclusive of the Domestic Abuse Council.
Okay.
So we're all.
But you can
in-
handle all,
Yes, ma'am.
because I know you have some benefactors. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me just state why I asked the question I just asked, because I'm sure you're puzzled and everybody up here is like gasped when I said that. I'm a little disturbed about the fact that an organization failed to comply with the grant requirements when they were given a lot of money from the taxpayers of this county. And so I'm not a real vocal proponent of rearranging the loan or rearranging things for somebody that didn't comply. I know you're new, but 20 months, quite frankly, is not really new, but I guess in the corporate world it probably is. So you're going to have to sell me on this thing today, because I'm just concerned that we're restructuring the loan or the ECHO grant or whatever, to comply with you. And again, you're a new person, a new guy, but it's the organization that bothers me. The fact that we gave this organization taxpayer money, and I will continue to stress that. And they basically just gave us a raspberry on it. We're not going to comply. It doesn't matter, and we're not going to report it. And so what if it's taxpayer money? I don't operate like that. I think it's very important that it's taxpayer money, and we need to be sure we're handling that properly. So,
if I may, there's actually 2 parts to this entire thing. The scope change approval is the first part, but they have voluntarily offered to partially repay that portion of the ECHO grant to reimburse the taxpayers for the scope change if it's approved.
Yeah, they're paying us the full amount back for the pet services building.
I get that, but
Yes, sir.
Got it. I still breathe heavily when I look at an organization that from its nose that its requirements are part of a loan or part of a fund.
If I may comment briefly, sir, so I cannot speak to previous bad acts of the organization. I can tell you that I was hired to come in and fix them. I bring a significant nonprofit background to the table, including being a certified professional fundraiser, which has a whole code of ethical requirements. I have been leading the organization through transformational change that includes incredible leaps forward with our transparency that were not in place previously. We are now certified by GuideStar and certified by Charity Navigator. You can go to our website and see our 990s, our audited financial statements. You can see our statements regarding transparency. Our board members are published on our website. All things that were not in the best of shape when I arrived. I cannot, I'm not looking back. I'm telling you where I'm taking the organization. This is a desperately needed service in the community, and we are making the taxpayer whole by paying back in full the proportional amount of the grant that was expended to create the original grant agreement.
Thank you for that. And like I said, I just feel like it's necessary to say what I said because that's whose money we're dealing with.
I understand, and I'm in the same boat with with grantors. We have multiple corporate and private foundations that have invested in our organization over time that I'm also making sure that we are in compliance with and completely transparent with how we use donor funds. If we have made a misstep, then we offer to repay those donor funds. Very, very aware of the obligation to the taxpayer and the community.
Very good. Hope you success.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Okay, we do need a motion on this one.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the scope change for Halifax Community.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, I won't spend much time on this one then. This is them offering to pay back the full amount for the pet services building, which is $186,539. They will still maintain and operate the dog park, and through the restrictive covenant of, I think, 2054 is when it runs out. So they're going to continue to do that. They've already spent between $30,000 and $40,000 to improve some of the amenities at the dog park.
So do you need a motion for any? No.
Nope.
There's just
Got it.
Quarterly updates.
I do have a question. Is the dog park open to any citizen to bring their dog over? Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add that both
I said all the
times,
time.
both times that I've been out there, it was tons of dogs out there. So, all right. So now we'll jump into the quarterly reports. Reminder: this is July through September. So this is as of September 30th. These are the reports for the grants and aids projects. I'll take any questions if you have them on these projects. All right, if not, I will move into our direct county expenditure quarterly reports.
I'm looking at a couple here that have the full amount unexpended, and I guess the Stetson Lake Beresford Am I understanding that correctly, that that's the full amount, nothing is expended yet?
Correct. So for Stetson, they got but they finally got their permit from their Army Corps of Engineers, so they can now start the construction process. So they haven't spent anything yet. The construction process started in November, so in the next report, you'll probably see an increase in percentage as well as some money spent there.
And the same is true of the city of DeBerry. They were in the process of getting permits. I want to make sure I understand what's going on.
Which one for DeBerry? Alexander Island. That project is still out for bid, and they're obtaining permits as well for their wetland. So I'm sure they're going through the same process of the Army Corps of Engineers at this point.
And just a comment on Volusia Flagler YMCA, the Deltona YMCA fields. I don't know, I can't remember who all was able to get out there when they unveiled them, but you should go see them. This is a great project. And I can remember what it was like when my kids used to play there, but now it is a great project, and Vince Hirsch is doing a good job back there. This was money well spent.
Okay, I'll move on to the direct county expenditure projects.
I have a question. And it not exactly to do with this, but I noticed on the council agenda, there's a study coming up, I think the next board meeting on the motocross track. And has it also been expanded to include UTVs and ATV riding also?
We'd like it to, yes, if the operator so chooses. So there is a space on our conceptual plan that we presented to council that has some trails on it.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You've already expended $2,373,000.
Correct, for acquisition of the property.
Oh, I thought that was other funds. Okay, thank
No, that's part of the 3.5.
That was the payback to Volusia Forever, correct?
No, the property was 4.6, so Forever paid 2.3, and Echo paid 2.3.
Oh, okay, that's right. Thank you. We paid for the part that wasn't going to be.
You paid for the part that was disturbed.
Right.
So the intact
Yes.
wetlands is what Forever bought, and the disturbed part was already, clear cut is what Echo paid for the outdoor recreation piece.
And you know, I'm disturbed.
Yeah, me too.
Well, and I'd have to disagree because I think it's one of the best uses we could do. Do you realize there's a place north of here that on not every weekend, but quite often a month, they took 1,000 acres up in Putnam County. It generates almost $500,000 every weekend that it's open. If the county could do something like that in here, it'd be a great, great thing to have. And it'll never have houses on it. And down the road, if it doesn't become viable, guess what we have again? Woods. So there's two sides to every story.
But it's in the middle of the conservation corridor. That's my concern. If they want to put it somewhere else, I'm happy to do that. It's a location for me. So.
Any other questions about any other projects?
Updated DCE plan.
Yep. All right, so Brad's going to take this one.
Yeah, so as part of the strategic planning process, you guys have, and we've heard it from you too, that the DCE program needs some tweaks. And so, today, this has not been approved by council. We're here to kind of discuss the handbook and the projects that we're bringing before you today. So it's like a dry run as to, we want your feedback on the projects, and if you read the DCE handbook, there will be a staff committee that looks at them. We will require applications now that we'll be able to post on the webpage. There is a webpage dedicated to direct county expenditure that explains it and has a list of all of the projects. They're also included on our transparency dashboard. So we've taken multiple steps to make the DCE more transparent. And And part of that is, getting your feedback before it's evaluated at the staff level. So that's why today we have a couple projects for you to review and dry run, kind of just what your comments are on them. The committee well, it may not be a committee, but the projects will be ranked when they get to council now. So the direct county expenditure projects will be ranked. And we have committed to grant recipients that we will always have enough money for grants. So if there's a year where we have elevated grant amount, then the DCE will...
Brad, I'm sorry, that's not approved by council yet, so you can't... The resolution does not provide for that, so what is in the handbook is a suggestion. Everything there's a suggestion just for discussion.
Correct.
So the resolution for DCE is completely under council's purview. Grants and aids are under yours. So this is,
Correct.
because you do grants and aids, we're having this discussion for a potential use of DCE process.
So in other words, the council could say, we're not doing this. We're not including the Echo Board on this. Is that what I understand? Where this is a dry run?
That is, so the resolution as it sits today does not provide for all of this oversight for DCE. So
Okay,
what we're
right.
trying to do is make sure we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed and go through this, how it would be so that we are fully prepared to present to council.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is two projects, the Ocean Center project, which we'll cover, as well as the Wilbur Boathouse that we did ask for some feedback and discussion on. But before we go into that, let me just give you a high-level update of what the January DCE plan is at this point. So there is one adjustment to the plan currently, that is to move Sunsplash Park up to fiscal year 26, the year we're in, from fiscal year 29 due to safety concerns. We've been we still do our compliance with our direct county expenditure projects too, and due to the salt water near the beach there with this park, it just needs some amenities and some upgrades. There's some safety concerns. So we're going to increase that project from $250,000 to $500,000, put a brand new playground there. We are asking for an additional $1.5 million to phase 2 of the Volusia County Fairgrounds project. And then we do have 2 new projects that are going into the plan, which would be the Ocean Center rigging project, as well as the Wilbur Boathouse improvements and ADA upgrades. So here is the funding request to these 4 projects. The total was about $5.8 million.
Question. What's the phase 2 on the fairgrounds? What's that involve?
Yes, sir. So I'll take that one. So one of the standalone projects for Echo is green infrastructure, so low impact development. So what we're doing there is just finished the first phase of the fairgrounds where we did permeable pavers, some bioretention. If you went out at the fair, you saw that we had now paved all of the midway. It's got curbing on it. It looks very nice. The Hester Dougherty building, when we had the master plan completed, our consultants from UF said the Hester Dougherty building were warehouses in a field. And they were right. But we put some storefront windows in them. The roll-up doors now are glass. We've increased insulation. So that was phase 1. Phase 2 will be bringing back some of the historic elements of the 1914 fairground that was adjacent to Amtrak station. Okay. So that was where the original fairgrounds was. This board actually asked to consider doing some sort of replica entrance, matching what 1914 entrance looked like. So that is part of phase 2. Continuing to improve the sustainability of the buildings at the fairgrounds, namely Hester Dougherty buildings. If you've gone out there today, notice the large AC units are on the east side of of the midway, which doesn't make sense. So we're moving those to the west side and put a shaded structure adjacent to, so it's like almost like a porch where people could sit and have some shaded area on the fairgrounds. The unique aspect of that is that those will be solar. The roofs of those things will be solar. So hopefully they will save some operational dollars. So that's kind of where we are right now for phase 2.
Question. On that phase 2, those structures are not hurricane or storm shelter compliant, are they?
No.
Wouldn't that be a better use of money to try to make those because we do use those as a storm shelter in hurricanes. It's a big deal out there, when trucks and people come in, rather than having a flagpole or a fancy gate.
So we use the fairgrounds buildings proper. So the ones that were updated in '98 are the storm shelter. Hester Dougherty are not used.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Could we? Shouldn't we use them? Do we have enough space out there?
They're not rated for storms. The Hester Dougherty buildings, and we still, my team is the one who runs that shelter with Ronnie, and we've still got plenty of room.
Okay, I'm just concerned. And the other question on the entrance, where is the entrance going to go in at? Right.
Yeah, that's good. We're going to work that out with the partners. We actually met this week with we did a bid process for an architectural and engineering firm that we've worked with before, and we're going to have some pre-meetings to kind of talk about, how do we protect future access at the fairgrounds, because it will. Apparently, there's some updating to exits along I-4, which will affect us.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering, because I've sat through several meetings now with potential developers out there between the fairgrounds and the interstate. And, the access is a big question. And the access seems to always, they have it different places. And I'd hate to see us spend a lot of money and find out that that's all going to be revamped. And I'm just concerned that we're maybe getting ahead of the.
So I will say Bentley, who is our firm that's working with us, is actually the one who told us about what DOT was planning to do in the next 3 years. So they have their hand on the pulse of what's going on out there.
You mean with the development, or what DOT wants to do?
What DOT wants to do to improve those exits.
You mean not where they won't be a high-speed interchange anymore?
They didn't elaborate. But we'll sit down with the stakeholders. That is part of one of the things that we're doing as part of phase 2, is sitting down and coming up with a conceptual plan for phase 2 and 3 that we all can agree on, including access.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for the vote of confidence. I will say there was an access point on Pravat that all the stakeholders agreed on for the master plan.
They haven't agreed? No.
They did.
Oh, they did agree for the access.
It's been there forever. That's the exit point.
Well, this is more for the access to property against the freeway, against I-4.
Oh, okay. I just want to add, this is really a great project. These fairgrounds get used by everybody, and they're strategically placed, and I applaud the fact that you all brought this forward. This is one project that I think needs to be done, and I'm happy to see it go forward. I understand your concerns because that area is changing radically, and in a short time, they're now talking about all kinds of development on the northwest
I didn't get us a truck stop. Boy, won't we be uptown. Gateway of DeLand will have a nice truck stop.
Yeah. But I am confident that the staff is on top of that, and you all have done some really great things out there. I was out there in December for a Christmas show, and it was really nice. It was nice. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. One of the things that we've done is we tried to make it also a green infrastructure demonstration area. So if you're out there, you'll see signs that have Echo on them, but also are teaching people who visit the fairgrounds the innovative ways that you can, decrease your impact when developing. And so
we're still working with university out there, correct? They're part of this project.
Yes, ma'am. And so I think the kind of theme is where tradition meets innovation for the fairgrounds is what we're trying to do.
I just applaud the fact you're putting shade there.
I would encourage anybody on Wednesday mornings to come out to the farmer's market out there. It's the new and improved version.
Dan?
All right, moving on to the Ocean Center project. This request is $4 million. They are doing 20% match from the Ocean Center Capital Fund of $800,000. This project will be an addition of acoustic panels in the arena to optimize sound for live performances, installation of arena curtain system to block the upper bowl, as well as a supplemental steel truss added to the arena to create a more efficient and effective rigging grid, some structural safety elements for use for rigging, a remodel of the arena green rooms, as well as a conversion of the mezzanine meeting room space for the VIP suite for concerts. And Lynn is here and her team from the Ocean Center to answer any questions if you have about this project.
I have one question.
Yeah, good question too.
Will there be a general contractor handling all these points?
Yes. Yes, it will be a general contractor, and it will be bid out through the RFP process for the county.
Okay, but you've not done that yet.
No, we're waiting on today's decision. Yes.
There's no decision to be made today. This is
Right, okay,
purely
well,
discussion.
Today's presentation.
Purely
yes,
discussion.
Waiting to discussion.
How do we
decisions.
get here? How do we get to a place where we're doing all this stuff at one time and we still have not addressed, in my opinion, some of the safety features? I was out there for graduation a year ago, and the nosebleed section does not have rails to help you up and down. And I've talked to you all about, not you, but I've talked to staff about that. And yet this is all good. I don't have a problem, but I'm curious about how we got to where we are. This building is old, and have we not been updating it as we go along? Or what is the intention of the Ocean Center?
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you all for allowing us to even present this. And I think it's amazing that Volusia County has ECHO. Coming from other counties, I compliment everyone. The day that I arrived and found out about it, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So it's great what we do here as a county, and I'm proud to be part of this county and to represent that. To answer your question specifically, we have a new floor and new seats. The new seats will address the railing. Week 2, probably, when Kate and I went on our first walkthrough. Where are the railings? Where's the lighting? Where's this? And we immediately started working on it. And the county was very open to that. So, George and Suzanne have been nothing but, what do we need to do, and very open-minded with the improvements that we've recommended. I think it's important to note, and I would like to note this for just a second, if I can. I brought a couple of our 40-year annual reports. And if you switch to page 25.
Thank you.
If you turn to page 25, you're going to see when the county had the vision to say we're going to open an Ocean Center, a convention center, an arena, what that meant. The why of any arena, any convention center is truly economic catalyst for the community that it serves. We have fulfilled that mission. The county has fulfilled that mission since 1985. It has provided, if you look at we're looking for it, but page 25, over $2 billion in economic impact in Volusia County. This past year alone, the number was, I left my card up there and I was waiting for that to see, but the number this year alone was about $126 million in economic impact, with over 1,000 jobs that are created and supported in Volusia County from the activities that go on at the Ocean Center. So the Ocean Center literally serves as a community asset that is an economic catalyst for Volusia County. We don't receive money from the general funds, but we do contribute back to the general fund through sales tax, which this year was around close, I think, 1.6 million. Again, let me wait a minute. Hold on just a second. I think I have it right here. I took a picture in case this didn't work. Let me get there and give you some exact numbers. But anyway, so that said, we do serve our mission for the county to provide the economic catalyst and to provide the jobs and to provide the sales tax return. So the investments that we continue to make is reinvesting and making investments back into a county asset that literally serves to serve the community. You have the annual report before you, and hopefully we'll get those numbers up. But looking through that, this past year, when I came, I was hired, and it was very clear from the dais the day that I was not guest sworn in, but the day that I was approved, that returning entertainment back to the Ocean Center was a priority for Troy Kent, for several others, for Matt. And so we started working on that. We have made very strategic decisions of where we would spend the money that we have based on support of the arena and getting it back to being the functioning arena that it was back in 1985. So a lot of what you are looking at is literally replacing or renovating or updating 1985 original investments in the building. Here's the numbers I was talking about. Our earned revenue for this past year was $11.3 million. We had over 471,000 people that came to the Ocean Center. What really is important and where you get the economic drive in the community is that we had 77,000 event-driven lodging nights. So people came to our facility and spent 77,000 nights in the hotels in that area. Which then generates the tourist development tax, which our portion was $16.9 million. Then the overall Volusia County economic impact was $126 million. If you look at what really I'm most proud of for the county is that since opening, we've hosted over 3,500 events with over a $2 billion economic impact into the county. And then if you start looking and go over to the statewide, you can start looking at the benefit even for the state and then the jobs created, like I said, at over 1,000, and then sales tax that went back to general fund. There we go. It's 1.9 million. I thought 1.6, but 1.9. So that's just a snapshot that I wanted you all to see, that when you're making this, or you're considering these for recommendation, that it literally is investing money back into the building, into the structure that will then turn around and generate more economic impact for the county. Your question of the railing, it will be taken care of in March or April this year. The lighting has already been updated. We just completed the lighting project and new seats and new flooring. So that was a $10 million-ish project that we are finishing in, I think, at April 1st-ish for the completion date. So good point, Pat, because I noted the same thing. Yeah.
Lynn?
Yes.
Look, so how long have you been on staff there?
2 years.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So thank you for coming in and taking over a dumpster fire. And at this point right now, I really think that you're doing a tremendous job making a silk's purse out of a sow's ear. But my concern is how much there is to do. Because, I think there's things that we don't even talk about at this point. The parking garage, my understanding has not been maintained and is going to need millions of dollars worth of work. The floor that you just talked about, that originally went into budget at 1.5 million and it ended up being 4, wasn't it? Wasn't that something like that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, look, I'm 100% supportive of you because I believe in what Troy Kemp believes, and that is that this facility has sat, dormant and not fulfilled its function. When you got people that are going to St. Augustine to an amphitheater up there instead of staying here for entertainment, we're losing money. We're losing dollars that way, tourist dollars. And the fact that we book in one cheerleading convention a year and a weightlifting convention and, just wasn't making it to me. So I'm 100% behind you here. My concern is with this proposal, the $4 million thing is it enough? And my question is where did that dollar figure come from? Where did the $4 million figure come from? And if it's for, as it's titled here, rigging, my concern is, what was a request for proposal put out on this project? Is that where the $4 million is coming from? Are we complying with county rules? My understanding is the county rules is you can't put a request for proposal out until there's money available. Is that accurate?
That no request for proposal has been issued.
Okay.
But
So where did this $4 million
we've worked with industry professionals to come up with estimates.
Was the industry professional you worked with a structural engineer? Was engineers?
Yes.
Okay.
Theater project's probably the best probably in the world, and they are for the rigging. So we have our Danny Wimmer. You may be aware that we went under contract with Danny Wimmer a few months ago, and Danny Wimmer, who was awarded the Polestar Promoter Agent of the Year, they are our consultants as well now on board helping us with this. So we've used industry standards. They're not hard to find. So of what this would require, but for the rigging, we had them theater projects when they part of their TA or their project with us was to draw the plans and then provide an estimate of what we would be looking at for the rigging and the structural safety component.
Talking about an older building, right? I mean, this is an old building that's going to need, my understanding would be, need a lot of structural work to bring it up to speed to handle the kind of shows and so forth that we want to put in there. Is that right? I mean, my question would be, are we going to come back? I mean, I'm all for it. Give you the $4 million, go to work. Is that going to be enough? Or is this project going to, in the end, be 10 times that amount?
We have money that's in our capital budget now to address some of the structural items. The substations, like the power substations that are original to the building that we need to power the building and to power new concerts, whatnot. Those are scheduled for this year. So the county, we had a $40 million, and if you heard anything about it, $40 million, 40 years. And part of the $40 million is $10 million was for the seats and for the floor. Another basically $10 million was for the garage, which has already started, the garage project. In fact, the garage was one of the first items that we really went out to bid with and started because of what your comment, not your comments, but those comments have been made. So again, upon arrival, George and Suzanne were both, here's some issues and we need to get started taking care of them, and we immediately started. Right. So a lot of it has been behind the scenes. We're replacing structural louvers around the building, things that might have been damaged in storms in the past or hurricanes, but we are bringing the building up to date, and I'm very confident in the numbers that we gave you, along with what we are putting in ourselves, will bring us to where we can all be proud of a refreshed building without any type of major expansion or major tear down rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, I live at the beach. Salt water and salt air is brutal on material. Right. So the idea that you're going to get it to where it needs to be, I just want to make sure you're going to get the resources you need to make this thing work, because it really does need to work. Because it could, I mean, that whole lighted area down there could be driven by that center, and we've let it just sit, and it's set for so long, And you go to the Peabody, that's fine. And, I've been there for several shows recently, but we just need to make sure that this Ocean Center is going to do the job, and I appreciate the task that you've taken on.
I share your sentiment. And having come from a top 30 worldwide Polestar organization that literally started from the first bulldozer that dug it down, I'm right there with you, and I love hearing the support of the community for that. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to a question I had asked. Just tell me, did we maintain this building? And I agree with Doug. I'm going to support it. I think we need to do it. But there's a sense out there that perhaps we didn't maintain this building the way we should have in the beginning that has now created this need. Are these new items, or are these, are we fixing something?
We're refreshing. We're refreshing, yes. So, restrooms that were part...
Lynn, I think she's talking about the rigging. So the rigging is to meet the new demands of shows, correct?
Yes, exactly.
That's a new
It's
piece
the new
of
demand.
It. Okay.
It's the new industry standard.
But the rest of it, I mean, the building, there used to be, God, I forget what the private room was called, but it was named after somebody years ago.
Clyde Mann Suite.
Thank you. That is changing. That is being upgraded.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason why we didn't do those things previously? I guess that's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, whenever the building, the arena, which is what we're focusing on right now, whenever it went
Bad shape.
dark for, it was built in 1985, and it went dark to the entertainment industry in like 09, 10. Okay. And now whenever we said, okay, we want to be back in that game.
Yeah, because we used to do entertainment there.
Right. Yes. And then we stopped for a while.
Yeah.
And now we're back. And again, I am proud to work for Volusia County and the vision that, everyone has for returning it and restoring it to what we planned for it to be, how it used to be.
One other thing that I heard recently is that, and I talked to Suzanne about this, I think I talked to her about it, the TDC tax is under fire in Tallahassee. I know that was last year they were discussing that and nothing came of it, but I'm hearing from a council member that might be coming back, and that's a concern. Are you hearing anything about that?
No, will be in Tallahassee in 2 weeks, where TDT will be discussed through the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association. It is a big focus of that association.
I thought it was because of Orange County. Yeah.
There's a lot. Yes, it's a whole nother subject in that itself.
With Danny, just maybe ask Danny this question, but
This is Brandon. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's okay. So the hit has been that we can't get entertainment acts in here or things like the car show or whatever like that because it's so difficult to access and egress out of Daytona Beach. Is that? And I know you're running Rockville. Is that right? You're the promoter.
Yeah, we do welcome to Rockville.
Okay.
And then
So my question would be: are we going to be able to get the acts in here that make this thing, a viable, vibrant type of operation again?
You mean getting them in as far as being able to put them in the room, like for their productions?
Well, yeah. I mean, are we going to become attractive to name acts that that again, like I said, our word, the word I've heard is it's tough to come in and out of Daytona Beach. People don't want to come here. It's easier to go to Orlando. It's easier to go to other places.
I think that with our help, we're already working on that now. We've got an event that we announced probably here in the next couple of weeks, and then I've spent a good deal of time since. Probably, I actually produced a show in that room in June of 2024 when I was at the pre. And I understand I had some challenges on that day, and I think that at the company I worked for at the time, I actually had planned to do other events in the room, and this, I don't want to see that happen. And then so what we're looking to do. What we're looking to do is come in terms of the rigging. I've been doing this for 28 years, and like you said, the shows nowadays take a little bit more. They come with more production, and the rigging in there is not. It's not terrible. They're 24-foot spans in the beams. That's a little hard to rig with today's time. You're doing bridles. You're losing the footage and the height that you need. It's already at 47, 48 feet, I think, is what it is at now. Then you're losing 3 to 5 feet on top of that. So even the show that I did there in June of 2024, I was like, this is a challenge. Like this is, we had to lower our stage down. We had to redo our rigging plots. Not something that's very attractive to tours. And the word gets out of the industry, hey, this is a problem to do this. Do a show. So I think coming in, the plan that the theater company that's looked at the rigging plots, adding in some beams in between the current bays solves a great deal of the issues. And then we're adding some more in the center portion, so you can do some in the round events. And then there was a couple of there's no fall arrest system in there. So from a rigger standpoint, when you're dealing with a rigging team, there's a safety issue there. So now you got to put in a fall arrest system, which is part of that plan, I believe, as well. And one, speeds up the process. Two, it's obviously safety and meets industry standards. And it decreases the amount of time that a rigger needs to be up there and the amount of numbers of people that we need to do the rigging. That's 40 points, 32 points. I think I'm looking at a 32-point show right now, which is the way it's going to be. Yeah, as it sits right now, it's going to take a 10-hour day to rig that building. Once we get it back to the fall arrest system and add some of the rigging and the steel in there, we're looking at a 4-hour day for that portion.
And your feeling is we can attract the kind of acts that we're going to want to have in there?
100%.
Okay.
Taylor Swift.
When she's on her downcline, which is probably not going to happen.
Taylor Swift. I have a couple questions.
Question.
Yeah.
What will your seating capacity be?
75, right at 7,500 with the new seats.
7,500. And also, is there plans in there to have any kind of like a Jumbotron or TV screen? Because most shows you go to now, you can't see the people up there. You're so far away. And so most of the time you have a big screen or something of high definition up there that you can, I mean, it's not as good as if you just stayed home and watched it on TV with a good sound system, but hey, I'm at a live show, so it, you know.
So typically, so the shows that we bring in have an upstage video wall that's a traveling thing. So that's not.
Oh, they do
something that
bring
would
their
come
own
with
video
the
wall.
building. That's something that would come in with the touring package.
I got you.
So I have a couple questions over here. So you guys mentioned that you want to achieve a 90% or higher performer satisfaction rating. Where are we at right now? Do we know?
Well, our one person who traveled through probably gave me a C at best that night, and I even said to him, "Bring it on." I'm watching this for the first time myself here, and I said, I have thick skin, and all we want to do is be the best in the industry. We may not be the biggest, but I can guarantee you before I leave, we will be known as the best arena in Florida, or maybe hopefully in the Southeast. Again, I have a little bit of competitiveness in me from that, having literally created a top 30 poll star. So I think we share that, right? Right, Kate? Yes, exactly. And Jeff Dunham was here last January, and we're looking forward to having him again. He said in 2 years, so we'd be 27. But I will tell you some of the what is exciting right now. You may have seen that we have Full Throttle that will be here in February. I don't know if you all have seen that. We're very excited that they are working with NASCAR. This is the first time in, I don't know, a very, very long time, if ever, that anyone has gone up against, a race night with any kind of event over, and their ticket sales are they're faring well. They're not as I think they had hoped for 20,000+, and we probably won't reach that, but we are reaching a satisfactory number for that, and we're working with them. We are also starting something for the community. Again, I just have commitment to the community because we are a community asset. So we are working with Locals Mix, if you all are familiar with them, to create some free events in the building for our county, or you can be anybody to come see it, but we're calling them the diving board sessions. And so we will be offering a stage once a month for singer-songwriters in Volusia County, and it is juried through Local Mix. If you all know Lori Sandman, it's part of her group, and they will come and they will perform, and we're hoping to create sort of a Bluebird Cafe, or if you're from Atlanta, an Eddie's Attic, just something that gives people in the community to kind of come and just hear what Volusia County has. That's one of our projects. We also have our second year with Chords on the Coast, which was another something that we met with someone in the community and said, "Hey, singer-songwriters, what are you doing?" And so Chords on the Coast will be here in March. And then we have an event that working with Danny Wimmer's group that they will be announcing soon for another event in May. We're also working right now with Veteran Services to have a concert in November for veterans. There is a group called Resilience. If you have not seen them, I would encourage you to go online and look at them. They're Wounded Warriors, and they recently played at the halftime show for the 49ers. And when we heard that, we're like, what? Can we get them? And it's just so they have a Volusia County connection. So we're excited to be able to host that in honor for the veterans. We also, from an Echo standpoint, again, knowing how much I love that the county has Echo, we have our Echo Gallery, and we've really pumped up. If you haven't been, we've really elevated the gallery openings whenever we do the galleries, and really creating a little mini cocktail gala thought to it. But one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to start tying concerts to the theme of the year. So if we do an environmental gallery, then we're going to have some working with Danny's group, pull in some environmental artists that may even just play in the ballroom, like smaller, again, free to the community type of concerts. If we did Black History, some roots, some jazz roots, some hip hop, something like that. So really tying the theme and promoting Echo at the same time that we're promoting this type of concert series. So from a community standpoint, the Echo series, the diving board sessions, and then from more of a national, and the veterans, and then from more of a national stage, the medium rare, the full throttle concert, and then working with Danny and his crew on pulling in some of the top artists that we want. And we need to be, and I think Brandon will agree, we need to be prepared when they're here. We can't afford them to go off and say, that's what I told Brandon that night. I said, you tell me, you don't have to tell anybody else, but you tell me what we need to do and we're going to fix it. And so again, we started with that commitment, and a lot of it was from Brandon's friendship to let it. I did when they said Brandon now works for Danny Wimmer. I'm like, that is fantastic, because he had wonderful constructive comments for us of how we could improve. So now I feel like we've got him as part of as just an extension of our team. So it's really exciting for all of us.
Thank you, Lynn. Committee doesn't have any further questions. We'll move on to
Actually,
the
I do have some questions.
Have some questions, okay.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, I went back. Number one, thanks guys for asking me to do my homework. So of course I've underlined and gone through like every single page in the book and trying to see how things, because I wanted to fill out my comment card correctly. And I just found a lot of problems, to be honest with you. I certainly support the Ocean Center and everything, but you know, it says that it's a $40 million project. In the paper, it said that this was all going to be paid for from the Ocean Center reserves and tourist development tax dollars, which I think is a great idea. But as I started going through the DCE program handbook, for instance, on page 2, under category eligibility specific requirements, it says must provide unrestricted public access and use. And nothing about this is unrestricted public access or use. The public will be paying to do everything to go to these events. Now, I was really glad to hear, I'll speak up. I was really glad to hear, is it Lynn?
Yes.
Thank you. I was really glad to hear when you started talking about these community programs and things, because I do feel for us to support this program that we do need to see some free community events, not just paid events for people. And so that jumped out first. And then when I looked at the application, like now we're doing these special funding considerations, and we all agreed that phase 1, phase 2 is a really good idea. But I didn't see anything in here that actually the applicants should submit an initial application requesting funds exclusively for professional design and engineering services. I didn't see that in this request. I just see $4 million with a match of $800,000. So I was looking for the phase 1, phase 2, which the information we've received does not include that. The other thing I was looking at is the match. This $800,000 is coming out of the Ocean Center Capital Fund. How much money is in that fund? Where is that fund? We've never heard of that fund. We're all sitting here talking about how nice this will be. We haven't seen any budgetary items for this. We have like a very schematic budget of very round numbers. Everything's 400,000, 500,000, 600,000, which I understand schematics. I'm a planner. So I understand that. But what you're asking for here is $4 million, and we don't even know if that's enough, to Doug's point. And if it's not enough, going back here to page 3, projects that go over budget will be covered by the division, not DCE reserves, and project savings will go back to ECHO. Well, we know there will be no savings, but sorry if I'm sarcastic. But at any rate, if this project goes over budget, is there enough money in this Ocean Center Capital Fund to cover that? And we don't even know. This is the first time I've ever heard of the Ocean Center Capital Fund. So there's an awful lot of accounting going on that we're really not privy to. And so that's where I'm just having issue with this. And I think the metrics, it was really interesting looking at the metrics of the success of this project. Financially, for the community, it's very important for Daytona Beach. I totally agree. But none of these, we have financial, operational, and quality metrics, none of which actually addressed the needs of the taxpayer in Volusia County. I mean, it's like good for business, it's good for promotion, and I totally agree with that. But, you know, I'm old enough to remember when they first came out with that trickle-down effect, and it hasn't trickled down to me. So there's probably a lot of other people that it hasn't trickled down to either. So I just see a lot of this as being, it's better, you know, a high tide floats all boats, yeah. But what is it actually doing with the taxpayer dollars? And are the funds coming from, you know, someplace else? Why are we suddenly 10% of the budget? I mean, $4 million, I mean, that's a lot of money, you know, actually, and then there's the match. So those are the questions, those are the things that just jumped out to me, because this is the first time I've seen the revised DCE program handbook and this new application we're supposed to fill out. So I just like ripped it apart. And I just don't feel we have enough information here to really make a clear decision. And that's just my opinion. It's one man's opinion.
So we don't make decisions on DCEs, their review. So, but I thank you. Your points are well taken on feedback. This is why we did this exercise, Jay. So I appreciate it.
I'll be happy to give you feedback.
No problem. We'll take that, you know, as we continue to try to tweak the program and massage it to appease all parties. But really it is, as Sabrina said, the DCE is a council program, the Grants and Aid program is your program. But we do want your input. So how that looks may change. Again, this hasn't been presented to council, but we wanted to go through the exercise.
After we meet each month or each time we meet, I produce a report and I send it to Troy Kent, my council member who assigned me, just so you'll know what went on, you know. So, and what I'm going to send it, you know, my favorable approval of this, or favorable, you know, support of this, but I still remain, as you did, concerned about where did the $4 million money funds come from? Where did that amount come from? You know, what are the structural engineer requirements, or what are the structural, what are the requirements or criteria that the people that made these decisions to produce this amount of money, where did it come, what credentials did those people have, is my concern. You know, again, are we going to be able to give you enough? Is this enough to do what you need to do? Are there other stages coming down the road and so forth? So I'm just concerned about the idea that $4 million sounds like a nice number, and it's a lot to taxpayers. It probably will provide a lot of what you need. But where did, you know, you got on your project description about rigging grids and things like that. Well, what were the credentials of the people that produced that number? You know,
so theater projects who did that, they, like I said earlier, they are recognized in the world as the leaders in that. And they were all structural engineers. They worked with structural engineers that actually were original to the building with the Ocean Center.
I'm just telling you what I'm going to ask. Tell Troy.
You're good.
Well, you need to ask these questions.
Absolutely.
So that you have this information.
First and foremost, I'm a CPA and spent many of my years working for Fulton County in Atlanta and then Cobb County, pulling together project budgets and sticking to them. Probably have overseen about $200 million in construction, if not more. I'll keep it kind of conservative. So I have personally, every project that I've ever worked through has been brought in under time and under budget. So we reach out to those who do know their numbers. These were not just numbers that we grabbed out of the air. Mm-hmm. So we said, in your professional opinion, one of them is David Ogle, who is pretty much, I think, the county architect, the resident county architect. But David has been working through most of the design on the Ocean Center for many, many years. And he works alongside Weigel and alongside Paul Culver, and he will reach out to them to get what industry standards are showing, you know, as numbers. numbers. So when you're looking at the Clyde Mann Suite and the bathrooms, we just put that out for active bid that was just awarded to Paul Culver. So we have those numbers are real-time numbers, and we know the square footage, and we know. So it was very scientific how these numbers were pulled together. What you can't do in Volusia County is you can't reach out, at least my understanding, and say we're going to issue an RFP before you have the funding. You can't reach, so you're kind of limited on where you go to get your numbers. If you reach out to someone and say, hey, I need you to come in and look and tell me what this is going to cost, then you violated what would be, someone having a, so we have done none of that. Who we've reached out to are people that, who I have 100% confidence in providing the numbers that we needed for what you saw. We have a contingency in there, a small contingency, $140,000. There's some design fees in there as well. We've already paid for the design fees for the rigging. The Ocean Center's already paid for those. So those have already been paid for. That estimate is basically, we watched as tariffs went up and steel was impacted. The number kind of tweaked up a little bit as those numbers were coming in.
Doug,
so I feel comfortable with
if
the
I may
numbers.
too, Lynn. So just for context, there was a bit of consternation when we did the DCE plan this year that this was not included by some members of the community. And the reason why it wasn't included is we didn't want to grab a number out of the air. So we hired the best consultants in the business through task assignments, which we can do as part of our process. And they gave us the numbers that's being asked for today. So we have a defensible number. But previously we didn't have a defensible number. And so that's where this is coming from today, that we waited until we had this data to come back to ask you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Can I just respond to that a little bit? Because I like the project. I think it needs to go forward. I think the Ocean Center needs to be improved, absolutely. And I'm excited about the idea of concerts coming back. But when you talk about the community, what I have heard in the community is that their cultural community particularly is, excuse my French, pissed about this because they didn't get their $611,000, and yet we're putting $4 million of this into the Ocean Center. So just know that you're going to have to answer those questions because I'm getting them. I've gotten calls and emails about this. So,
well, I think that money, we can't use ECHO money because it's operational for the Cultural Council grants.
I know
Yeah.
that was checked out, but that doesn't take away the burn for the cultural community that they did everything they were told to do, and they lost their grants, and now we're putting $4 million of ECHO funds into this. It's an issue out there in the community with the cultural group. So,
Let me ask one other question too. Having said what I said about the ocean, what assessments have been made, or did you make, about the structural integrity of the building as far as corrosion and other elements that might impact, what you're going to do as far as putting other steel in there?
We have worked with. What is the engineering firm?
Zev Cohen.
Yeah, and ARC. And Jim Corbett, who manages all the facilities for the county. You may or may not be aware of this, but within a couple months after my arrival, we put facilities back underneath Jim Corbett, the PE, who knew everything that needed to be done. And so we started a wonderful relationship with that department, and they were on it. And that's where you started seeing the deck, the garage, the improvements in the garage started, new electrical, the new sub panels, chillers, all of the things that needed to be taken care of. We were working directly with Jim on that and his engineers that he works with. But we've already started with louver panels. And yes, there is going forward as well. We have a 5-year plan that every year that we are required to do it. So it's a rolling plan. But the reinvestment, once we get it up to where it needs to be, just a continuous reinvestment annually for what needs to be, especially outside with the corrosion, it's ongoing. It's not something that will just stop when we finish with this investment.
I think this is an area where Jim Corbett has a specialization when you're talking about buildings that are on the waterfront or oceanfront, because he was the facilities director for Guantanamo Bay when he was in the Navy.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'd like to repeat what Jay asked is, what is the Ocean Center Capital Fund and how much is in that account?
So the capital fund, so let me see. Can you go to the page that we were just on, 25? And this will make it a little, okay. So if you look at the Ocean Center up to the left where we impact by numbers, this will give you a little bit of understanding of where that is. We earn revenues because we lease space, provide food and beverage. And then we attract events. There are people that come and then they stay in the hotels and they spend, and that gives us the tourist development tax money. And it is from that money that is collected. We get 50% of that money that is collected, and the remaining 50% goes to the convention development tax. So that's kind of how the TDT comes down. So when we get the TDT money, we use that money is by law required to stay into the asset, and that's where we get the money for the reimbursement or the reinvestment back into the asset. So it pays the bond. So there's the bonds that paid, the garages, I think, just paid for. So that money goes to pay for the asset, and then the refreshment or the renovation of that. So in operation. So the capital that you're looking at, the capital fund, is just the reserves. So, it flows through every year. You spend what you need to spend in the capital investment. You spend what you need to spend in the operations side. And then there's a balance at the bottom, kind of a retained earnings, if you will, from an accounting standpoint. But it would be a restricted retained earnings that just would go back at that point into the renovation or back into the asset. So that is where that money comes from. And there's a little over $2 million in there. Once you take the plans of so we do as a 5-year. So we look what comes in, take out, and then you got a little reserve down here, and it kind of follows you back up. That's why it really follows a retained earnings type of situation, just a restricted retained earnings. It's about a little over $2 million right now.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Gerard, were your questions answered? I hope.
As answered as they're going to be. I think there should be a balance sheet somewhere that's showing, we're looking at a brochure of some sort, but this Ocean Center Capital Fund, certainly somewhere in the county, there's a balance sheet that has that information in it. And it wasn't included in the information we're seeing. So, and like I was questioning, what's going to happen if it goes over budget? And is that going to come out of the Ocean Center Capital Fund? Because according to the handbook, it's not going to come out of DCE.
Okay. It would come out of the capital funds.
So that's, those are just, concerns that I have moving forward. And this is a project that's underway. You guys have been out there replacing floors and all kinds of things for a very long time. So there should be like a rolling budget on where this project is.
Oh, there is a rolling budget. It's a 5-year. It's a 5-year budget that we use for capital investment.
And I just feel like, I know if I go to somebody and ask them for $4 million, that I'm going to get asked an awful lot of questions.
Absolutely.
And be asked to come up with an awful lot of spreadsheets and accounting, and I'm just not seeing it here. So it's just a comment.
No, you're good.
Thank you.
No, trust me, as a CPA, I get it. I understand it.
Yeah, you understand.
Sit on many boards myself, and I am probably a compliance guru or a compliance hawk when it comes to that. So I appreciate any and all the questions. Ask them.
Right, because we want to see a good Ocean Center. It's not, it definitely needs to be improved. There's no question. And you're making huge progress from what I understand. So I compliment you on that.
Thank
but still, we're talking about public dollars, and we just should ask questions.
Absolutely.
So I do have
Thank
a
you.
comment potentially to help support the community aspect of it, is just bringing this forward and going forward. It would be really great to see a little bit more detail regarding free programming for the community, items that are going to be available at discounted rates for the local area, because these high dollar events are amazing. They're going to bring a huge amount of revenue. But in the interim, in the middle of all of those really great big events, we still have a community to support. And we understand fully that there is a heavy amount of homeless in the area. There is a heavy struggle in that area. So it would be nice to see some cooperation, some ideas, some strategy moving forward on how to support the area and make it relevant as well, not just for these big events.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Move on to the next one, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, the other project is the Wilbur Boathouse improvements and ADA upgrades, $65,000 request. Their match is from the Beach Management Fund, $35,000. This will be historic preservation as well as demolition and reconstruction of the deck, stairs, and ramps, as well as ADA compliant handrail. So this is privately owned, but we do own the adjacent property where the boardwalk, deck, ramps, and stairs will be going. That's why we're taking care of that portion of the project. So this will provide ADA access as well as water access to the Halifax River.
And Sabrina Slack, County Attorney, just keep in mind these are just discussion points. This is all proposed, it's just discussion points. So Lynn left, but I wanted to thank her for being participating in the process, so we can kind of flesh out how this might work. So just keep that in mind as we go through it. That try and focus on how the handbook would work versus the actual project. I know they're interesting, but
Any questions about this project?
No, could I just really quickly?
Yes.
For the benefit of the group, this project goes back to 1993, I believe, when it came before the council as a ICT project, intermodal strategic transportation something. I should have written that down. Anyway, it was one of 3 projects that the federal government provided. It was MPO at that time, MPO money to do for off-street, off-road projects. It was Wilbur Boathouse, the Deland train station, and the first mile of trail across Gemini Springs, because that followed the railroad tracks. Anyway, it's a great project. If you have not been out there, it's a wonderful little asset for an unincorporated community and for the county. For people to use. And it's old. It's kind of like, I don't know what the age of it is, but it goes back.
Like from the 20s.
Yeah, it goes back a long time. And I really am excited about the fact that we're now making this ADA compliant, because that issue is so important as one who took care of an ADA needs person. So I hope that everybody will say, yeah, this one's good.
Any questions or comments? Okay, we hope everybody filled out their review sheets.
Yeah. So we're just going to use those as discussion points from today for the minutes as of right now. Okay. All right. So moving on to staff comments, the three recensions and the scope change will go to the county council on January 20th, as well as the strategic plan. So we will have 4 items. And then our next meeting is Friday, April 10th. And then our next cycle will start 2 weeks later on April 23rd, where the mandatory workshop will take place here in Chambers. And that's all I have for today.
Advisory committee comments. Leah, anything?
No, ma'am.
Doug?
Yeah, just, you guys may all wonder why I became Chatty Cathy today. Over the course of the last month, I had started to do some research on things, and I got in touch with Daniel and Nick and asked them to provide me with some specific items that I wanted to see and was concerned about getting, and they did a wonderful job. When I got back from my Christmas vacation, I had a huge packet waiting for me. In fact, when I sat down today, I put my papers down, and Leah goes, "What's all that?" I go, "Well, don't worry about it. I did my homework. I've been doing my homework." So you wanted us to do our homework, and I've been trying to do that. And I feel very, like I said, I feel, just it's important that I represent the taxpayers properly. That my council member had the trust in me to appoint me to this, and I want to make sure I do a good job. And I do a good job in representing the taxpayers. So thank you for providing me the information that answered a lot of questions for me, and I wanted to thank you for that. So,
Jay?
No comment.
Pat Northey?
No.
Pat?
I think my biggest concerns with our agenda today were the Hotchkiss House and Lillian Place, and I understood that we did not have any action to take there, but the outcome and the long-term results and consequences of those two properties really interest me. And that's it. Thank you.
So I will share with you that I followed the Dillards out and said, you know, my recommendation to them was to come to the county council meeting with estimates of all of the work and a time frame that they can stick to. That's really why we're here. They've given us multiple plans that they haven't executed. So if they come with the knowledge of how long, if they get the money from the other house, if they want 6 months and they have, you know, a plan, they may have a chance with council. That was my suggestion.
Thanks, Brad.
Just one comment on the Ocean Center. I did trade shows for 40 years. 40 years of my career, I did at least two trade shows a month. And we always talked about Daytona Beach. I've been down here for 30 years now. And one of the things that comes up, that used to come up every time we talked about using the Ocean Center is, why the heck was it built on the ocean? Why wasn't it built on I-4 and 95? Okay, so I mean, it was a long time ago. I understand that. But the negativity of using Daytona Beach for a trade show was outstanding. I mean, it's unbelievable, the reaction you got. Because at that time, when you go back 30 years, 25 years, there were no hotels to use. So people had to drive in, try to find a place to park, and then drive out to a hotel 20 miles away. Now, I know things have changed since then, but I didn't want to bring this up when they were here. But it's just something that really needs to be drawn back to get the drawback to this area for not only trade shows but concerts. And believe me, I go to a lot of concerts. I drive all over the state to go see these oldie concerts because I'm old. All right, but just keep in mind that there's always been a lot of negativity in the industry regarding the Ocean Center.
Yeah. I want to appreciate the staff's doing this, bringing this whole thing up in front of the committee, and each and every one participates. That's inspiring, truly. You know your background, you're doing it, and thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Gerald?
Oh, there's been enough said today. I'm good.
I want to thank staff also. I know you guys have worked really hard this year and you've made a lot of improvements. Thank you. At that, this meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
John, do you do tribute concerts?
I don't do trivia.
Oh, okay.
I do real one.
Okay. We're doing a Santana tribute concert at the amphitheater in Deltona this Saturday, so I was just going to let you know.
I'm going down to Boca Raton to see an oldie concert.
I know
Vanilla Fudge.
Oh, wow.
No, you're fine. I'll give you my calendar as part of my packet. Then it's online too if you wanted to. Oh yeah. If you go to the website.
Yeah, leave your reviews here.